load. Make sure that when you get in there the Monday morning after the rollout weekend, everything is running smoothly. This is a good day to have had a good night's sleep the night before and be alert. And anybody who's on vacation, bring them back in. Try to schedule this for when people are around. The new features do not require application changes. I know a lot of shops who have upgraded to 15 and chosen not to take advantage of most of the features simply because they didn't have the time or will to go and test them. I recommend you take advantage of it. If you're going to take time to do all the testing anyway, you might as well test out the new features while you've got them. So, some potential troubleshooting tasks. Folks will forget to do things like delete delete stats or update index statistics. I recommend update index statistics above update all statistics. Go ahead and use a decent fill factor. A decent sampling factor when you're doing that. If you have a limited amount of time, 30% sampling rate is probably more than adequate. I have a friend who used to work at Sybase Professional Services, and not Sybase Professional Services, Sybase Engineering. He was part of the optimizer team, and what he did was a lot of testing involved with that. And as far as the statistics went, he said that for the most part, having stats sampled at 10% in the same plans as sampling at 100% for almost everything they tested. Well, I'm a professional paranoid, so I do it at 20 or 30% instead of 10, but if we sample a fifth of the data or a third of the data instead of all the data, that's going to speed things up. Make sure that your histograms, tuning factor, and collection factor, and index steps are set to something reasonable. We're suggesting 220. 220 might be adequate. Just make sure you're not using the only 20 and no additional steps, because generally when you start working with large systems, it makes you unhappy. Do make sure the stats get updated. The server is going to use them a bit differently. You want them current. Take a look at the individual LEO and histogram costing. See if the costing is in line with the suspected values. If you're working with a merge join, take a look at those merge join key counts and make sure they were similar to the join key counts via show plans. This is another good place to update the index statistics if in fact you're running into problems. Take the time to install the MDA tables. A lot of folks have said they do not install the MDA tables because they think it creates too much performance overhead. The MDA tables are creating performance overhead. In general, you probably needed to shop for some CPU anyway, but how are you going to figure out where your problems are? Note that you don't have to enable all of the MDA tables. You can just pick a couple of critical ones like the object activity and the statements and the procedures to identify what's running and where. In fact, you're still running into problems. Try changing the optimization strategy. The default optimization strategy may not be working for you. You can test this at the session level because you can change this and override it at your session while you're doing the testing. Keep in procedure cache to make sure it's not getting creamed. I have actually a new entry on my blog. Feel free to go check out my blog. Its mechanism for titrating procedure cache down is definitely a good place to err on the side of giving yourself too much procedure cache because there's so much extra that's going on up in there. For example, the merge sorts. Take a look at the plan costs and show plan to troubleshoot the query plans. Use the QP metrics, the metrics that are available for the queries, the query processing metrics. This is a new feature of 15. Identify what's going on, where's going on, and how these things all fit together. One more tip, don't forget that literal auto parameterization. Okay, at this point I've wrapped, and I've actually done it in about the amount of time I'm supposed to. I'm going to turn this over for questions and answers. Peter, Mike, who's next?
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that very much. It was a great presentation. I'm sure the audience appreciates all of the insights. Okay, and now we're going to move on to the question and answer period. Peter, I can't see the questions on the console.
Okay, let me... Okay, first of all, a lot of folks have asked how they can print or capture the slides The full presentation, the rebroadcast, will be available to everyone. You'll see that later on in the presentation. Some of the questions that I have received from the council, it's pretty hard to read it. Okay, Jeff, a question from Jean-Pierre. So support for large storage, 4 gigabyte plus. Sorry, it's really hard to read this.
Hard to answer the questions.
Yeah, I know, it really does. I apologize. So it's really hard. I'll have to get, Jean-Pierre, I'll get to your question and get it to Jeff offline.
Yeah, I can handle these things via email. For some reason, we're not able to do them live.
Mike, any other questions that you've received?
Yeah, I let people know that we can do live Q&A. If people do have questions and they don't want to ask Jeff live, if you submit your name as they come in, or we'll have Peter do that. Again, just submit your name and your email on the console, and then we'll call upon you. While doing that, there are a couple of questions here. Jeff, when migrating from the older versions of ASE to ASE 15, is the model and all the stored procedures and triggers, do they remain the same, or will changes have to be made before the upgrade?
I'm having a hard time hearing. You're asking if triggers and stored procedures need to be changed?
When moving from an early version of ASE, are there any changes in that respect that need to be made?
The official answer, I don't think you need to, but I like to drop and recreate objects anyway, because with new optimizer settings, we have new query trees that we're going after, and it may happen internally, but early on in 15, and I'm going back a couple years now, there were some situations where we cleaned up some problems by dropping and recreating procs. I don't know if that's still a problem, but it's not a bad idea.
Okay, good answer, thank you. Question, will my apps run faster or slower with the new optimizer that is rewritten for ASE 15? Oh, what a big question that is.
Flip a coin. It sounds somewhat facetious. A lot of things are going to run faster. Every once in a while, you'll find something that runs slower, and a lot of things will run the same. So I would say you've probably got a 40% chance that you'll run faster. Maybe a 60, 35, 5. 60% faster, 35 about the same, and 5% might be slower.
Thank you. The question we got is it how to upgrade from version 11.9 straight to ASE 15, or is there a required intermediary step to 12.5?
That requires an additional step, but I wouldn't bet anything important on that. I seem to remember seeing that needs to go to from 11.9 to 12.5, and then from 12.5 to 15. But I would check the documentation and double check with tech support there.
All right, great. Thank you very much. And the question 4 is, does the database support encryption? The answer to that is yes, right? So
yes.
I can answer that one. All right.
Okay, I'm going to take everyone off of mute for a few minutes, so if there's any other questions, please feel free to ask. I'm trying. It's letting me do that. I apologize. So if there's any questions, feel free to email Jeff, and his contact information will be is there. You can email him directly at jeff.garvis@mLogica.com, and he'll respond directly with any other questions. Want to wrap this up?